my tarot cards look really confusing right now. What do I do, right? Like, this happens to everybody from time to time, but I want to talk with you for a minute about some of the reasons why this is happening, so that you get a better understanding of it, and also maybe some ways that you can kind of work around these problems. Now, the very first issue is generally that people don't know their deck well enough. This is just an experience level most of the time, and it occurs a lot when people are first learning to read tarot, and that's fine. But if this is happening to you, what I would suggest, I would encourage you, one, to keep studying and learning so that the answers, when you see the cards, they just kind of come out of you, and you don't really have to think about it too much. The other thing I would say is just go piece by piece, right? Just simplify everything. Just back everything down to the smallest piece. Don't try to read everything all at once. Just read the cards in small sections or individually one by one if you have a bigger spread that you're working with. Pick one definition from the card and that's it, and keep moving. Or if you feel like that's not the right one, just kind of spitball and just start saying or thinking everything that you know to be true about this card, and see what one resonates and feels best for the definition of that card for you in that reading. If you need to check your book, that's perfectly okay. I did that when I was first starting too, and there's no harm in doing that until you can kind of get going. Now, another reason why the cards might kind of seem confusing to you is you're asking the same question too many times, right? Whether it's in a row, because maybe you didn't like the answer it gave you originally, or if you've got someone in a reading, and this happens, I've done this too, I've had clients do this to me, they kind of keep referring back to the same question, because somehow whatever you said initially, they're just energetically or emotionally worked up, and it wasn't a good enough answer, or they forgot, or they just want more information, or whatever it is, right? So if this is happening to you, stop. Just stop. Because the cards, the more you're asking, they think, well, I've already answered that question, you're confusing me. So then now the cards are confusing you. So what I would say is go back and just use the very first interpretation of the very first reading that you did for that particular question and get rid of everything else. And if that doesn't seem like it's working, you just put that question aside and don't ask it for another day or two. Go back after things have had some time to settle. Another reason why the cards might be coming up kind of discombobulated or confused is maybe you're being too nosy and you're not supposed to know. While the tarot can give you all the answers, sometimes we're not supposed to have all the answers, because knowing too much sets us and throws us off course of where we're supposed to be going. So if they look confusing and you're having a hard time getting around it any other way, maybe just set it aside for now and understand that maybe this is just information you're not supposed to have at this current point in time. Now, another reason this could be happening, this is something I did to myself quite often at the beginning when I was learning to read my own cards, is that sometimes when you are energetically worked up about a particular situation and you're sitting in your feels, the cards pick up on that energy and they become very discombobulated when they lay down. And for me, I know when I'm doing this because everything looks like a giant blur of color. It's the most beautiful painting that you can't tell what it is. So that'll happen sometimes too. It might also happen if you are doing a reading for a client. I've read for some really highly charged, energetic people who are severely emotionally involved in a situation, and not just like a little bit, but just like really like in the pocket. And their energy disrupted the energy of the cards so much, everything was all over the place, and I really couldn't get a clear read. So I just started using a different method of divination in order to get them the answers that they needed. So that could be a reason why that's happening as well. Another thing too is sometimes too, I've mentioned this in another video, when you have some cards down and they don't make sense and you keep putting clarifying cards, sometimes just throwing too many cards into the mix too can just discombobulate the meaning. Sometimes you're better off just going back one by one and trying to figure it out on your own. Just because you don't like the reading or just because it looks intimidating to you doesn't mean that it's wrong, or doesn't mean that you need extra cards, right? The very last thing that I will mention about if the cards look confusing, why this might be happening, and it's more of a rare instance, but just in case you are a special case and this happens to you, sometimes when you shuffle, the cards don't come out right because it's the wrong deal, right? For you, it's the wrong draw that you've laid down. This has happened to me on occasions when I have been giving people reading to decide, okay, well, how's this person doing in relation to me? How's this person doing? What happens if I go this way, or what happens if I go that way? And sometimes what happens is when I tell the cards the intention of which one I want to do first, sometimes the cards decides that that's not right and it flips and I'm supposed to be asking the other one first. So the reading will come up really weird and not seem like it matches what I asked. So another reason too, sometimes you just shuffle wrong. It's very rare, but sometimes you just shuffle wrong. And if you've ever just looked at it and been confused, and not in a way where you're like this seems overwhelming, or oh my God, this is a lot, or oh, it's just when it just looks like this doesn't feel right, this doesn't look right, it doesn't feel like it resonates with what question you asked. So if that happens, what I have done and what I would suggest that you do is to be very honest about it. Just be like, you know what? I think I need to reshuffle. This just doesn't feel right to me. I don't think this is the right spread for you. That's okay. Sometimes it's okay to be like, well, this one looks like I'm getting the intuition that this one is supposed to be for Dallas and not for Chicago. So if you really feel like that, you can read it for Chicago, or you can reshuffle and really ask the cards to, get it a little bit more accurate for the question it wants to answer first. Sometimes it likes to take charge a little bit. So you might be getting a discombobulated reading for that particular reason. So those are some things that can happen to you when you're doing readings, and I hope that helps explain things a little bit more, because I think sometimes we take it on ourselves like we did something wrong, or like I didn't do that right. And it's just, these are problems and issues and things that happen when you're reading cards, and knowing how to work with them will make you a successful reader. So hopefully that was helpful. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Until next time, thank you for watching and have an absolutely beautiful day.